What is going on, guys? I got an interesting story for you today. Check this out. An Australian woman who bit off part of her husband's tongue has been released after 3 months in an Icelandic prison. Now, why is this interesting or surprising, you might ask? Well, it's basically the situation is that she's had happen to her what most men have happened to them when they respond in a domestic violence situation. So check this out. When Nara Walker married her love in 2016, she had no idea it would end 3 years later with her sitting in a cell of a maximum security facility. The night she was arrested in November 2017, the former Queenslander and her then husband were at their Reykjavik, I think that's how you pronounce it, flat with an American tourist and another woman. Nara Walker's mother, Jane, said things happened that night. Let's quote, things happened, and the gathering turned violent. A court in Iceland heard that Nara Walker's husband threw the American man down the stairs. And when Ms. Walker interceded, he became enraged with her, punching and pushing her and breaking some of her ribs. Okay. So, I mean, obviously that's not good. I don't know what went down, but, you know, it's not cool to be, like, breaking people's ribs and throwing people downstairs. So, it says here, and I quote, "She defended herself when he stuck his tongue right down her throat, and she bit down on his tongue and took off the tip of it," her mother said. Now, I gotta ask, why on earth is he sticking his tongue down her throat? I don't believe that he would have stuck his tongue down her throat to try and piss her off or attack her, right? There was obviously some sort of situation where, you know, like, I reckon they were kissing and she's bitten the, I don't know. Look, I'll never know the answer to that, but go with me here, right? Because it just gets more interesting from here on in. And thank you so much to The Price is Right review. It says, yo, what's up, my man? Hope your day is awesome, bro. Doing well, man. Thank you for the $2 donation. I appreciate it. Nara Walker's, here we go. Police were called. Nara Walker was taken away. So the Australian girl who bit her husband's tongue off, at least the tip of it, was taken away by the police. Right? Now, normally it's the guy who would get taken away by the police, even if the guy was injured. Now, they're actually a pretty progressive country over there in Iceland, and they're pretty much taken over by feminists. So when I heard this, I gotta say I was a little surprised. When they took me to jail, I was in this state of disbelief that this was even happening. The same emotion that many men feel when they've been attacked and they end up being the one dragged off out of the house and into a jail cell, into the back of a paddy wagon, into the back of a police car. That's the feeling of disbelief that men feel when that happens to them. Her passport was later confiscated. The 28-year-old artist admitted to hurting her husband. So she admits that she was violent towards her husband, but throughout her arrest and court hearings told investigators that she acted in self-defense. Was it in self-defense? I was afraid for him as well, because I injured him and have never injured anyone, so that was a shock in itself. Yeah, sure, you've never injured anyone. Now, I gotta say, why were you afraid for him if he was attacking you? Because, you know, like, I'm just saying, if someone's attacking me, I'm not going to be too afraid for them if I retaliate physically and hurt them. I did not attack him. In that moment, I was terrified for my life. Terrified by his tongue in your mouth, your husband? Why were you terrified for your life? Because he had his tongue in your mouth, right? Was his hand around your neck? Did he have a weapon? No, he had his tongue in your mouth. You couldn't have been frightened for your life just from that. But I note that there's nothing else mentioned that you were concerned about. At home on Queensland's Sunshine Coast, Jane Walker was appalled to discover that her daughter had been arrested and charged with assault. I noticed there's no father mentioned in this situation. I noticed there's absolutely not a single mention of this Nara Walker's father, only Nara Walker's mother. So she was raised by a single mum. The plot thickens. She was even more disturbed when she found out her daughter was released days later from the police watch house and taken back to the flat. They delivered her back to her husband, so she had to leave and packed up everything, so she was basically homeless in Iceland. She had no job or passport. Wait, so she was homeless. So that means she had no money. Because if she had money, she would have gone and got accommodation. The plot thickens some more. The 2008 trial was conducted in Icelandic, apart from Nara Walker's evidence, where she detailed months of abuse from her husband, including text messages and where he admitted putting the drug LSD in her tea. Wait, so this alleged domestic violence has been going on for months, and she even stayed after he allegedly texted her admitting he put LSD in her tea. Now, I'm just saying, if I was a chick and my husband was like, hey, yeah, by the way, I put LSD in your tea and I didn't tell you about it, I would have been like, fuck you, I'm out. So she stayed. The plot thickens some more. But the Icelandic system does not always recognize a woman's experience of domestic violence as a defense for assault. Interesting. Because the Australian and the American and the UK system and basically all of the Western world does not recognize a man's experience of domestic violence as a defense for assault. Nara Walker was found guilty and sentenced to 12 months in prison. With 9 months suspended, she would only have to do 3 months of community service. So she got a 1-year prison term. But that was basically not even a 1-year prison term, it was 3 months community service. She appealed, right? So getting away with 3 months community service out of a year jail term, no, that wasn't enough. Had to get a lighter sentence than that, so she appealed. But her 3 months of community service was upgraded to maximum security imprisonment. Women in the justice system are not getting a fair shot at justice, Ms. Walker's lawyer, Icelandic court attorney Sigrun Ingibjorg Gislatador, oh man, I can't pronounce that. I tried. I'm not going to try it again, said. Sigrun sounds like a female name. I'm just making assumptions here, but it sounds like something a chick would say in this situation. And thank you for that $10 donation. Kay to the Swiss says, keep it real, Sydney. I appreciate you, man. Her colleague, Aldortina Dalbjarnodettin, oh no, fuck that up too, said it was especially true when the women are of foreign origin, if they don't speak the language and perhaps have uncertain residency statuses. The pair believe Ms. Walker may have been at a significant disadvantage during her trial. She's certainly, like all individuals who do not speak the language of the court, in a weaker position than otherwise. She's not able to defend herself in the same manner, with the fact that everything needs to go through a translator. Ms. Gizladit. Yeah, no, not happening. Ms. Walker said the court process and her journey through the justice system in Iceland added to the trauma of surviving domestic violence. It's nearly 19 months that I've not been able to live properly. I haven't slept properly. I constantly live in fear. Wait. So you've been putting up with this for 19 months. It was so terrible for 19 months and you didn't once think to leave? In a country that has all of the tools at your disposal to ruin your husband? To have him thrown out of the house? Well, I don't know if you're just either really stupid or really compassionate towards a husband that you're claiming is violent. Either way, neither of them seem like a smart path to take if what you're saying happened has really happened. It would take me a long time to get over that, if ever. I can't function properly. I'm afraid. In February 2019, Nara Walker entered the maximum security facility surrounded by supporters who taped their mouths shut in protest against the court's treatment of women. Oh yeah, because giving her 3 months of his community service in lieu of a 1-year jail term, that wasn't light enough treatment. That just wasn't good enough. That was terrible treatment of women, after biting someone's tongue off. Once inside, she said the prison guards were quite kind, but it was a shock to wake up in a prison cell. Yeah, because women typically aren't thrown in prison, right? Men are, for lesser crimes, but women aren't, because the system tries to preserve them, tries to, say, oh, well, she's a good mum, she's a good student, she's got a bright future. So, let me just turn this brightness up. Waking up there was like, okay, I'm here. I had panic attacks that day, but I really had to understand that while doing time, you can't count time. She said she soon got into a routine of cooking with fellow inmates and using the prison gym. I was able to do watercolor paintings while I was in there, so that was very helpful. There were ups and downs for me. I didn't really have proper hot water the whole time I was there, and there was an issue with the heating, and we were locked in our rooms between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. She said it was an emotional time as she reflected on her relationship with her husband. Jane Walker said her daughter was resilient behind bars, and after a month, she was moved to a minimum security arrangement which allowed her to work during the day. She could ring me every now and then, and we had a Skype call once a week, which was wonderful, she said. So she gets to work, she gets Skype calls. Man, doesn't sound like prison to me. All your meals are getting paid for. It was a real concern because she's grown up here in Australia with nature and freedom and walking around. Yeah, see, women are free in Australia. They're not enslaved. But she managed really well. The young artist, you say? Young artist said she was not able to return to Australia because she still did not have her passport, and she was preparing to fight a deportation order from Iceland authorities. Her mother fears the order could restrict her movements and damage her art career. An art career? Damage her art career. I'll continue. If that comes off, it'll mean that she won't be able to go into any of the Schengen countries, which is where her European art base is, and where her work has been shown in galleries. The lawyers who took over from Nara Walker's legal team after she went to jail are taking her case to the European Court of Human Rights. They will argue Ms. Walker's right to feel safe at home was violated, as well as other rights like her right to a fair trial. The Australian said she hoped that by taking her case to the Human Rights Court would highlight problems still being experienced by women, even in progressive countries like Iceland. I have that platform to be able to come forward and share my experience. I want women to take the shame off and give ourselves a hug and recognize that we are living in this, and it's 2019 and it's time it's recognized within the system. Her lawyers believe there is room to improve the small country's legal system. So because one Australian broke the law in another country, suddenly we've got to change their legal system. All right, cool. Our penal code is from the 1940s. Obviously, it's been changed a number of times since then, and one of the things that's been re-examined and needs more re-examination is that this situation that domestic violence is perceived like other forms of violence, Ms. Gazlatia said. For example, in Nara's case, you have these months of abuse and then you have this matter happening, and we would like the justice system to take into account to a larger extent what happened before, even though it wasn't reported and she allowed it to happen. But that it's not just what happened in that precise moment, which is the case perhaps in traditional violence cases. But the pair insists the Nordic country is progressive on domestic violence and women's rights more generally. So I was right about it being a feminist style of legal system. The Icelandic police puts domestic violence especially high on their list of priorities. So when calls are made for domestic violence, they are quite quick to respond. That's interesting. So she didn't make any calls earlier. Otherwise, they would have responded earlier. Sometime in the last 19 months while she was allegedly being abused. They say Iceland now has laws that force an abuser to leave the home rather than the victim. But the pair hope this case will show more work is needed. No, what needs to happen is when laws are actually broken, people need to report it so they can be investigated. And the people that actually committed the breach of the law can be punished, whether they be male or female, for whatever reason. The justice system needs to work together with the parliament as well as the police and the courts to find a solution as to how we ensure that victims get a fair trial. Despite her experiences, Nara Walker said she has no ill feelings towards the country. Icelandic people have welcomed me into their homes. I've taken Icelandic lessons, she said. One of the reasons that it really upsets me is that people I know or children I see in the streets, this is going to happen to them, and there needs to be a discussion to eradicate this epidemic, which is worldwide. Jane Walker says she understood her former son-in-law had recovered from his injuries and was no longer living in Iceland. So in short, this female is the daughter of a single mother who, and by the way, this single mother of the daughter who broke the law in Iceland is not holding her daughter accountable for any of her daughter's bad behavior, which further cements my suspicion that she's a single mother. So the single mother has raised a daughter in a feminist country who has basically learned that, hey, I can do anything I want and I shouldn't be held accountable for it because I'm a woman and I have a vagina and I can always make an excuse that something bad happened to me first and therefore I shouldn't be in trouble for what I did. And she then has an arts degree, right? Because of, like, you heard about the arts, right? So she's a Western feminist raised by a single mom and went to college and did an arts degree. Are any of us surprised by the way she behaved? Absolutely not. Anyway, guys, look, you may have different opinions to me. I'd love to hear what you think. So please, make sure you smash that thumbs up button like Kate Mulvey smashed the wall. Share this video. Drop a comment after this live video finishes. And I look forward to catching you guys in the next video. I appreciate you. Peace.